Welcome to One on One, the Daily Items weekly digital program featuring Susquehanna Valley newsmakers interviewed by Daily Item reporters. Today's guest is Northumberland County Commissioner Sam Scicchitano, interviewed by reporter Justin Strawser.
Sunbury Motors Ford knows many of you will be heading to the Bloomsburg Fair, so they need to sell cars now. Sunbury Motors is going to price all new Fords at a level that makes it impossible to say no. You'll be feeling great driving to the fair in a 2018 Ford Escape for only $18,820. Sunbury Motors has to sell 7 new Fords every day from now till the Bloomsburg Fair.
Welcome to the Daily Items One-on-One. I'm your host, Justin Strawser, and today we have Northumberland County Commissioner Sam Scicchitano. Thanks for joining us today, Sam.
Thanks for inviting me, Justin.
We brought you in here today because the new county prison is basically finished. You know, at the time of recording this, we don't have the inmates in there yet, and maybe by the time it's released, we'll have them in there. But how are you feeling that this is basically finished after a long? You've been involved 2 years, but after a long 3 years in the county.
I mean, yeah, it's been a trying experience, but it's been an enjoyable experience. We got in it when we still were thinking about putting the prison down here at the Celotex property, and did some investigation on different things that was happening, and ended up finally up in the property where the old Northwestern site was, and I'm very happy to say it was a great decision. It's not only saving us bundles of money, but I think it's also in a place that's out of sight. It's somewhere that once it's there and once it's going, people won't even know there's a prison, in that area.
It's not easy to find unless you're looking for it. No,
and I just think it's turned out even better than I could have imagined when we bought the property.
You mentioned the night Celotex area. When you and Commissioner Schock and Commissioner Best first came into office, that's where the previous administration was going to put it. And then you guys put a hold on it for a couple months, the whole project.
Right.
What was the thought process of putting the hold on the project, and how did you ultimately end up deciding this is not where we want to go, instead we want to go up here to Northwestern?
Well, when we got into office, there was no alternative. The Celotex property was the only property that was available, and we were going forward with that. And of course, as everyone knows, there were issues. There were issues with some possibility of contamination in the soil. And the more we progressed with that and found that we were going to have to remove so much soil, we were going to have to do this, it was landlocked, that we wouldn't be able to expand. It just so happened the Northwestern employees, one of the people that I actually used to coach back in the 80s at Shamokin, who was an employee at Northwestern, who was in Philadelphia, called us and asked us if we would be interested in looking at the property, and we went up, and from there it just grew. We first were talking just about holding cells up there, and then it got to be, an expansion where we might have 2 or 3 buildings for a prison that we might be able to save money, and it evolved into what we got today.
Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, you were kind of thrust into this position where you were the go-to guy. Wow. You kind of oversaw a lot of the stuff that was going on. Did you fall into that role? Did you choose? How did that come about?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it all started when we started to talk with Northwestern, and because I was familiar with the person we were dealing with as an old player of mine, I did the negotiations, and it started where they were at $20 million, and then we're at $11 million for the property, and eventually we negotiated to a $6.5 million, which was a steal for that property up there, and I guess from then on, everybody thought I was the negotiator. So I was the one that sort of did all the dealings, but it was a project that a lot of people were involved in.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned at the groundbreaking ceremony how much your wife had to deal with you taking so much time and putting it into the project. Give us some context for that statement. How much time went into this project on your end a week?
Listen, even when we were developing it up there at the Northwestern site, when I was meeting with the architects, and they were saying we had to use 2 buildings, we had to use this open field up there, I was going up on weekends with measuring tapes and measuring what I thought we could do. And actually one day after weeks and weeks of working with the architects, we went into a meeting, closed the door, and I put a preliminary drawing up.
Oh, I love this story.
And I said, listen, this is what we want, and you have 2 weeks, or we're going to find someone that can do it. And they came back, and that's the design we pretty much have today. And I think it's perfect. We have a new part that's all brand new facility that was prefabbed cells, and then we have the rest of the prison that's all things that we just remodeled, which saved us bundles of money. It's all in one building, and one thing I really like is our administration building is off to the side. It's not part of the prison. So when inmates get visits from their families, the families don't have to go through the protocol of getting searched and everything at the prison because they go to the administration building. We have cameras, and we have where they can speak and actually see their loved ones over in the prison and be able to talk without going through all that menarche of worrying that this is going to be taken in, and plus the warden and all his people that work in the offices, they don't have to go in every day and get researched and everything because they're not going in the prison. I think that was a big advantage to what we did up there.
Yeah. So that drawing that you did you end up keeping it? Did you frame it and put it above your mantelpiece?
Well, I actually gave it to them, so I don't know what they did.
Okay.
But, it was just a matter of when we were discussing this, they wanted 2 buildings. And at that time, 2 buildings would have been very hard to manage with the officers that would have to go in and work in the prisons and the warden going back and forth. And actually what we ended up doing is using the main building that we intended to in the beginning. And now the other building we were planning on using at one time is now going to be a Gadenzia, which for detox and drug rehabilitation, which just turned out great. We had a vision when we went up there, and the vision was not just to build a prison. I don't care what people say. There are people who belong in prison. There's also people who make a mistake once and don't need to be there again and can be rehabilitated. And I think the whole goal of Rick and myself was, to not build a prison, but to build a place where these people can be helped and hopefully not get out and get reinstated back into the prison. And that's with Gadenzia being there, with helping with the drug rehabilitation, because a lot of our prisoners are in there because of drugs. And also the True Core, the juvenile place, which you have already seen, which has also, from what I have been told, there's some young men in there and women that have drug problems. They're getting rehabilitated. So we're not just a prison where we're going to, they're going to go in for so long, get out, and not get back in. I think we're going to be helping people, not get readmitted to the prison over and over and over again. And if that's what we do, I think it was a great idea. And you got to try to help people. It's just not a place to lock people up. So. And
that's sort of the vision that you've tried to bring forth in this project of not just imprisonment, but
right.
rehabbing people and helping them.
That was the vision. I never thought it would be realized so soon. We have the prison done. Gadenzia is going to open up shortly. Juvenile place has already opened up. I never thought we'd have all that going by now, and that's a tribute to everybody who has worked on that and recruited these places to come in and get grants, because Gadenzia's building, which they're going to remodel, I think for a little over $400,000, is not costing Northumberland taxpayers a penny. That's all grants that were 7 counties, seven of the surrounding counties all put in for and got. So none of that is costing the taxpayers a penny. Plus, TrueCore being in there, we have almost received $250,000 in rental from TrueCore, renting the facilities up there. So they're not only helping juveniles, they're also helping us, with revenue coming into the taxpayers here.
And you have a lot of acreage up there now, so you have some room to expand in case anybody wants to come in. Is that right?
Right now we have around 500 acres. We started with 168 acres with the purchase of the prison site itself, but then our solicitor, Mr. Garrigan, found somehow there was land up there that would go back to the county if it wasn't used or something, and we ended up gathering and voting. Rick and myself voted to accept that land, and it was interesting because right after we took the land in and the county took over the land and owned it, we found from the pipeline they needed to run some pipe over there, and I think we got $233,000 from the pipeline people for the pipeline right away and also for some timbering that they did. So if we would have never took that extra, whatever acreage that was, 200 and some acres, we never would have received that. So we had another $250,000 in revenue that would have never came to us.
Well, I guess speaking of some of the money topic, we can discuss that a little bit before we head to our break. The price of the project's always been kind of a popular topic. I think rightfully so, because people want to know.
Yep.
We want to make sure we are spending frugally and getting the best bang for our buck. So I think the construction ended up being about $22 million.
Correct.
And then the total project about $32. I think you guys borrowed about $29 or $30 million last year for that project. So put that into context. Are the citizens getting a good deal with the price of the prison?
If we put it in context, let's just say this: the Celotex property, when we decided to put that on hold, the estimate of the Celotex property was $46 million.
And that was before.
That was before we even did anything.
Okay.
That was just getting to the point. And I know things were coming in with water runoff, that they were going to have to put another $500,000 into that because something was the matter with those plans at the Celotex property. So the estimate at that time with soft cost and construction was $46 million. That was one of the things that, sort of helped us go into the direction that we did. Our project up there, construction costs ended up, we had $22,800,000 put aside. I think we spent $21,800,000, somewhere around $1 million under budget for the construction. And the soft cost came in, I think, a little where we ended up with the whole project saving somewhere around $800,000 or $900,000. From what I've been told by construction people, when the project, and I'd be up there 2-3 times a week. I've been up there. I was up there on weekends. I'd get phone calls when we were shopping for groceries on a Sunday afternoon about things. But the people that I talked to in the construction business who went up and saw the project that was going said we could never build it for what we did. And it's a tribute to everybody who worked on that to be under budget. When you're talking about an overall project that came in at about $31 million and $22 million construction, to be under budget with all the change orders that I have learned happen in things, that's an accomplishment. And I have to give our architects and Todd Rothamel, who works for Alexander, because every time he would call and say, Sam, we have a change order, I would say, Todd, find me that money somewhere else. And we only did change orders we had to do. And anybody that got up, and we had a nice tour for the citizens of the prison, anybody that got up, see, we built a very well-structured prison, an up-to-date prison, but we did no frills. It was what we had to build. And all the counties that came around, all the commissioners, all the wardens that came around, they're very interested in, when they get overpopulated, sending their people up to us.
I did talk to a couple commissioners from, I think, Montour and Union, and they were very impressed with it when they were up there.
So it was a giant,
it's a very impressive place.
Giant project, and it's over, and it turned out well, and thank God, and it was the prayers and the hard work of a lot of people that ended up the way it did.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Commissioner Scicchitano.
Explorers start under $30,000 at SMC, and they have 20 to choose from. Every Edge, Focus, Fusion, Fiesta, EcoSport will be discounted for SMC to sell 7 new Fords every day from now till the fair. Sunbury Motors has 70 new F-150s marked down to as low as $25,969.
We're back with One-on-One, and we're here again with Commissioner Scicchitano. Do me a favor. Can you hold up that arm for me?
Here it is.
What happened?
Well,
did you punch somebody?
No, actually, people think that. Actually, no. I'm back into coaching and coached football for a long time in my career. Head coach at Shamokin area and head coach at Milton High School. Assistants at Shikellamy and Our Lady of Lourdes and everywhere else. But
and you're helping coaching at Shamokin now.
I'm helping at Shamokin.
That's where you were a teacher.
And that's where I was a teacher. Mm-hmm. And first week of practice in the summer, in August, I wasn't paying attention, and some of my players were doing backpedaling, and they turned and actually got hit and broke my wrist.
And how's it feel now?
It feels
supposed to be healing.
I think it's healing, but it had a regular cast on, but now we have this little cast because I couldn't stand the regular cast, and we'll deal with it. I told the kids I could play if I had to. So.
So the Hanoskis weren't looking out for you? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'll tell you, it was an honor last Christmas when Coach Hanoski, young Henry, had me to his house with his dad, and we had some wine and some soupy, and we talked about things, and all of a sudden they asked me to coach with them, and it was an honor to do that. And at that time, I didn't know what the answer was going to be because I had to talk to my wife, but of course, I've coached, and she knows I've coached all my life, and that I was going to do it. And they're just two great people. And the Coach Hanoski watches out for me and his dad, I think.
And they're both former NFL players, and the young Hanoski is a Super Bowl champ.
Yes.
Is it a little intimidating?
Well, Henry's dad I grew up with, and
Okay.
he played at Mount Carmel, and I played at Shamokin back then, and actually he played for the Cleveland Browns. He went to Temple University, where my son ended up getting his master's degree. And they're just nice people. And Henry, of course, who went to Pitt and went on to the Giants and played in the Super Bowl. It's great being with them. I think they're a lot like I am, and they're good people, and they just try to do the right thing. And that was one of the reasons I decided to coach with them. When I met with them, I said, "You guys are saying everything the right way. You're the kind of person I am, and I want to be part of it."
And what did you teach at Shamokin?
I taught 5th, 6th, and 7th grade for 36 years. I taught mostly math and science at that time, and I was the head football coach there in the 1990s till 99, and I started coaching in 1976.
How long was your break between stopping and starting back up with the Hanoskis?
Oh, probably 3 or 4 years I've been out.
Couldn't get away from it.
No, the last time I coached, we actually won. Shamokin was the district champ, maybe 2012 or something. And, you can't get away from it. I don't know why. It's like, it's rewarding, not financially, but it's rewarding that you're knowing you're helping, young people. And I think it's more than just coaching. It's giving them direction. And I see a lot of kids I had that are 40, 50 years old, believe it or not, that have come back and said, "Coach, you taught me this, you taught me that." That's what's rewarding.
Mm-hmm. You've been able to balance that with your commissioner duties and your football duties then? 'Cause I know I've called you up a couple times and you're like, "I'm on the field, I'll have to call you back."
Yes. No, I told Henry I get calls. They look at me every time my phone rings when I'm at practice. And I said, "Listen, if I get a call, if it's something I have to answer, I will. If it's not, I'll ignore it." And Henry's great. And it doesn't happen all the time. Well, I shouldn't say that. It happens probably every day. It does. But it's great being back coaching. And I have no problem. Of course, I'm retired. I hated being retired when I did retire as a teacher. And I'm back, and it feels good to try to do things to help people. And I think I've done that all my life.
Can you pinpoint something between, being a commissioner or working with the kids that has been one of your most proud accomplishments over the time that you've been commissioner or been a teacher / coach?
Well, I think the main thing is, what I teach the kids and what I try to do as a commissioner is, listen, in this world, it's hard to do things and make the right decision all the time, and that's and I try to get that into them as a it's not the popular thing to do, but when you make the right listen. I've been a coach over 40 years, and I said to someone, all the years I've coached, when I go to bed, every year that I did coach, when I had to make decisions who played, when I had to make decisions on games, I never second-guessed what I did because I always felt I did what was the right thing. A parent didn't influence me or anyone else influenced me. I did what was the right thing for the kids. And as a commissioner, I do what I think is the right thing for our taxpayers. I try to get that our athletes to do the same thing, And the other thing is, hard work. If you work hard at things and you are consistent with the way you do things, you'll be successful. Maybe not in everybody's eyes, but in the right people's eyes.
Do you think you'll ever have a project like the prison again? Such a huge project like that?
Listen, I never thought I'd ever be involved in a project like that. That was much more over my head than I ever imagined. Again, as you said, I got thrown into it, but I had not ever felt that I got thrown into it. I accepted it, and I'm not sure the county ever had a project that big, and I don't think we ever will. And hopefully that prison up there is 100 years like the old prison stood,
yeah.
and everybody will down the line say, hey, they made the right decision, and this is really working.
So I've asked you in jest before, but we'll get it on the record here on camera. Now that project is completed, what are you going to do with your time?
Well, believe it or not, there's things that we still are working on. There's a couple projects in Shamokin I'm working on. We're working on the project up at Milton that I want to get up there. The
DJ's office?
The DJ's office, want to look at, that's a remodel job. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably be a little bit involved in that, not as much because it's so far away, but I'll be up there looking at that. And down the line, the building right across the street is something that
the courthouse?
That I would, I think we have a beautiful courthouse. I think we just need to make it more sound and more efficient. And I think that's a project we'll be taking on in the near future. And I look forward to it again. To be part of it is an honor. And sure, it takes time up, but what else do you have to do when you're going to be 65 years old? You don't have that much more you have to do.
And the 911 fixing the 911 communications.
The 911, we have already dealt with that months ago with Motorola to correct that. Mm-hmm. So I forget, it was another $3 million or something we had to allocate, and we found that, Rick and myself, when it went to look for money for that. So the project. The 911 project is being fixed as we speak.
Right.
And someone said that the incident the other day in Mount Carmel in the school had to do with the 911. That had nothing to do with that. The actual incident that occurred there was because of towers that we are now in the process of building. Mm-hmm. And those towers are being done. So that was something that we had no control over. That had nothing to do with communications between departments. It had to do with being that public buildings are so secure and cement and things like that. The signal won't go through, and we just need to upgrade the signals and get some towers so we have more power going into those buildings. And we have already authorized to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
that will be taken care of.
So you got all these projects coming up, and I feel like that might be a little bit of a hint for your future because you have maybe about a year and a half left as a commissioner. And we have probably election campaign's going to be starting up soon. Do you have any big announcements?
Oh, I don't know. Listen, I live week to week.
Okay.
I hope I'm alive next week. When the time comes, as long as the people encourage me to do what I'm doing, and the people are happy with. And listen, I know everybody. You're never going to get everybody because I can name some people that aren't happy because there's some people don't like doing the right things, and that's what I will plan on doing. But when that time comes, I'll make that decision. And again, I live week to week, as I used to say, game to game in football, and we'll make that decision. It will be the people if they think I'm doing a good job, and they keep encouraging me the way they have. And of course, the prison was a big project, and a lot of people have called and wrote letters, and commissioners and the DOC, Mr. Wetzel, who has been a great help. If I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing what's best for Northumberland County, probably will stay in. And if it feels it's not, I have other things I can do, but I do enjoy working as a commissioner.
Okay. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Commissioner, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
For this week's edition of 101.
Thank you for watching 1-on-1. We hope you'll join us this coming Thursday at noon for another edition.